What's up, guys? ATCZ here. Welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! Deck of the Day. Today we have a deck that I know a lot of you are excited about. So I present to you a Toon deck profile. After so many years, the support Konami released in Toon Chaos has finally made Toon an actual deck. It's very playable now. It has a win condition. It's consistent. It's not tier 1 or anything, don't get me wrong, but it's actually a deck that you can play in a local or regional level and have success with it, have a lot of fun with it. And so I will give you now the most optimal build you can run. It's kind of debatable on how you can run this deck. I know there are a lot of versions out there because you can run stuff like Toon Alligators and Toon Mermaids to go for the Bahamut Shark route. But I think this build here is the most optimal one, mainly because of Totally Awesome being limited, so you cannot run cards like Extravagance if you want to play that build. So you don't have to force any super combo with this deck. It's a very simple deck that does one thing right, and that's just beating your opponent with beaters while protecting your monsters with your Toon Kingdom. So let's begin, and before we start, if you like the video, drop us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you want to see more amazing content, comment down below which decks you want us to do next, and now without further ado, let's begin. So first, the new boss monster of the deck, and the one that's actually your main win condition now, 3-Toon Blackluster Soldier. This guy can be summoned basically like a Cosmo Dark Planet. You can just tribute toons from your hand or field that are level 8 or more. So you just drop it like that. It can attack directly, of course, all toons have that. If you have Toon World on the field, your opponent doesn't have any toons on the field. And by skipping its attack for a turn, you can actually banish any card on the field. So it's a spot removal as well. A 3000 attacker that can attack directly is pretty good. The deck relies on beaters and just beating your opponent down as quickly as possible before you actually get outgrinded, because this deck doesn't grind too well, so you want to try to win by turn 3 or 4. And this card helps you a lot. And don't stick to the fact that you have to tribute monsters to summon it, because there are a lot of ways in Toons that you can actually summon monsters ignoring summoning conditions, so you won't even have to use this effect most of the time. It's just there in case you happen to draw 2 copies and you can just tribute one to summon the other. So that's there just to make it a little bit easier. 2-Toon Dark Magician. He's the one that tutors out all your monsters by discarding a Toon card. You can either special summon a Toon from your deck ignoring summoning conditions, so you can bring out your BLS just like that, or you can search a Toon Spell the Trap if you need any of that. It's a really good monster. You can bring it out very easily with the next monster I'm going to show you. And 2500 attack, can attack directly, so basically another big beater. 2 Red Eyes Toon Dragon. This card is not as easy to get out because it's the one that brings out the other monster, so I run another card in the deck that brings this guy out really easily. It helps you special summon a Toon monster from your hand ignoring summoning conditions, so you can either bring out a BLS, you can bring out a Dark Magician, and depending on what you need, you can search, you can special, you can banish cards. So it helps you unclog your hand if you have a handful of Toons. Another new monster, Toon Harpy Lady, just a one-off, because you just need her to search her in case your opponent has a problematic backer that you need to deal with. You can special summon her if you have a Toon World on the field, and if she's summoned and you have another Toon monster, you can pop a spell or trap. So it's basically a monster that you would just summon. Basically in defense, you can pop a back row. If your opponent has some floodgate or something, you just have one back row. She's just an extra option that's good enough, I think, to be run in the deck, but it's just as one-off because she doesn't really do a lot. 3 Blackstone of Legend. This is the card that brings out your Red Eyes Toon Dragon. It's just the only normal summon of the deck, so it's not like it'll ever be cluggy, because you need a way to special summon your Red Eyes Toon Dragon from the deck very easily, so you can bring out more toons from your hand. And 3 Eyes Blossom, because it's most generic hand trap in the format right now. Now let's go to the spells. The spells is really where Konami made this deck an actual deck. You will see just how impactful these cards are. So let's start with 3 Toon Bookmark. This is basically an extra copy of Toon Table of Contents. It's once per turn, unlike Toon Table of Contents, but it has the effect to protect your Toon World from a card effect. When it's going to be destroyed, you can by just banishing this card from the graveyard. And this is so important because all Toon players know that without Toon Kingdom, you cannot play. So your opponent, if they knew what they're doing, which was not very difficult to figure out against this deck, they would always go after Toon Kingdom. Like, if you just Phoenix a Toon Kingdom, all your Toons would blow themselves up, and basically you don't have to do anything. Like, you have to have Toon Kingdom on the field to survive. It protects your Toon monsters from targeting. It makes them be able to attack directly with their effect. It's really, really important, and this card helps you keep it on the field. It's really sad that it doesn't protect from any card effect, because Cosmic Cyclone kind of kills this deck, but still, we'll get what we can do. And this card searches either your Toon Kingdom or anything that lists Toon World in its text, so basically any Toon card. Next, 3 Toon Page Turn. This is a quick play, which is actually really huge because it lets you reveal 3 toons from your deck, and your opponent picks one at random, and you special summon ignoring summoning conditions, and the rest go back to the deck. And the reason why this card is really good is because the Toons have summoning sickness, if you know what I mean. If you have ever played Magic, they just cannot attack on the turn they're summoned. So being able to flip this during your opponent's end phase and get any Toon on the field means that you will be able to use it for an attack during your next turn. And if you draw multiple copies, it's not bad because yes, it is once per turn, but you can use one on your turn, you can use one on your opponent's turn. So it's not like too terrible if you happen to draw multiples. So this is another great card that also ignores summoning conditions, so you can bring out your Toon BLS from your deck straight out with this card. 3 Toon table of contents. Of course, everyone knows this card. Adds any Toon card, not once per turn. This is not a deck you want to go for Toon table, Toon table, Toon table, and then search something. You want to keep these in your deck because they're a top deck that you need to see to get anything you want. So you'll just search immediately whatever you need with your first Toon table, because it's a Toon deck. You're not playing Sky Strikers or something, just need to search your entire deck. 3 Toon Kingdom, the all-star card of the deck, like protects your Toons from being targeted or being destroyed by card effects. It protects them from battle by banishing the top card of your deck face down. You have to have this card on the field in order to be able to play, so that's why Bookmark is really important to protect your Toon Kingdom. Otherwise, you will not be able to run over your opponent's life points with all your Toons. 1 Terraforming, because again, like I said, Toon Kingdom is mandatory, so you have to have as many copies as possible in your deck. 1 Coming Hand, just one because it's searchable. You can take control of your opponent's monsters. It's basically a Snatch Steal and turns the monster you stole into a Toon. But I think more than one would be cloggy because it's not a card you want to see when you're going first. It's not a card you want to see in multiple copies. So yeah, I think just one because you can search it whenever you want. Now for the generic spells, 3 Super Poly. This deck kind of struggles dealing with established boards. It's not the best deck at breaking boards. Yes, Toon BLS has spot removal, but that's hardly ever enough to deal with anything too crazy. So if you're playing against a combo deck, you need the power of Super Poly in order to be able to destroy the opponent's board and then build your own board and try to go for a game. And 3 Pot of Extravagance, because the extra deck doesn't really matter. I only have Super Poly targets in the extra deck. You will never go for any kind of Link summoning in this deck. You can technically go for rank 7s because Red Eyes Toon Dragon and Toon Dark Magician both level 7, but there is not, I think, any rank 7 monster that's worth playing over any other Super Poly target. Now for the traps, 2 Toon Terror. This is the Infernity Barrier of the deck, another one of the new cards. Searchable Infernity Barrier, really good. It's once per turn. Of course, Infernity Barrier will never have a card like that ever again, but still, it's a really good card that you can search, have some protection, which actually gives the Toon deck something to have when going first. And you actually want to go first. I don't think the deck is really good going second, so you kind of try to search your traps when you're going first and try to and hope that your opponent doesn't have enough plays that you can play around 2 traps, because you play another trap that people have forgotten about, Toon Briefcase. This is actually an old card that Toons have. It's basically a time-space trap for Toons. It shuffles back any summon into the deck, so if you have drawn your Toon Terror, then you can search this, and you can basically see these 2 cards are Salamangreat Great Roar and Salamangreat Great Rage, that you have one, you search the other, you have them both set, and this is the protection for your turn, maybe backed up with a couple hand traps. It's basically a very similar style deck if you wanna compare it to another deck in the meta. And 3 Impermanence, because again, along with Ash Blossom, it's the most generic hand trap. If you want, you can cut something like the Extravagance if you can have access to them for more hand traps, like you can play Veiler. If you are not a fan of Super Poly, then you can switch these out for Veilers. But basically, if you want to cut something, consider running more hand traps on the deck to make it a little bit more resilient. And the extra deck, like I said again, it's not something special. You will never link summon this deck because you will never have like more than 2 or 3 monsters on the field. So it's basically Super Poly targets in 3-offs, just to make sure that you always have them, even if you have activated Pot of Extravagance. So 3 Starving Venom, of course, the Dark's the most generic Super Poly target. 3 Dragostapelia. This card, now that Pendulums are not really a big deal, you will not summon this too often, but it's still a good card to have, because Thunder Dragons are still decent. There might be a deck that uses fusion monsters, so you can actually bring this out, and also gives you kind of a disruption as well. 3 Thrift for all those decks that spam a lot of dark monsters. This is the monster in your extra that you can swap out for any other monster you want. These are just the most generic monsters, but if, for example, at your locals there are a lot of zoo players, then you can put Firefist Swan in your deck. If you have like a Gravekeeper you need to beat, you can put the Gravekeeper Fusion monster, the Supernaturalist in your extra deck. So just adapt to whatever your local format is. You don't have to play these specific monsters, and this one is the one you can switch around because it comes out even less often than Dragostapelia. 3 Earth Golem Gnister, because this replaced the Salamangreat Violet Chimera. It serves the same purpose against Salamangreats, but it's a lot more generic. And 3 Mad Dragon, because you can catch some by surprise when they have like two monsters that don't even know that they can be used for Mad Dragon as materials, so you can just clear opponent's board this way. So yep, that's the deck, guys. I really appreciate that Konami has finally made this deck viable. They're starting to make all the classic decks viable. They managed to make Blue Eyes viable. They made Heroes really good again. They made Dark Magician really good with all the support. So you can expect all your old favorite decks from the original anime to eventually get a decent amount of support so they can be actually a playable deck. And this deck is actually really fun to play. Try it out. Like I said, Toons have a lot of cards that you can experiment with, so don't feel forced to run this build. This is just what I think is the most optimal way to play them, but you can test the Bahamut Shark build. You can play a more trap version build if you want with Toon Masked Sorcerers and Toon Gemini Elf to try to outgrind your opponent. That's also an option. So Toons are very versatile. You can figure out what works for you best. So if you want, you can use this as a skeleton for your own deck list. So yep, again, guys, if you enjoyed this video, give us a like. It really helps us. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on new content. Comment down below what decks you're going to want to see. We're going to update all the decks that get support the moment they get the support. So stay tuned for that, and we'll see you next time.